Look at that, sun's just coming over the peaks. So I haven't even looked to see where we are. I know that we're still in the island of Mallorca. Look at that beautiful little anchorage over there. And there's only like a spot. You have to get right on the cliff face to be away from the protected seagrass. And so why are we here? We're supposed to be underway. We're supposed to be almost all the way to where we're headed, out that way. About 9 o'clock last night, about 13 hours into our 40-hour mission. Well, Paquita started wandering off on her own. She just decided she was going to go here and go there, and I kept correcting it and cycled the autopilot on and off. And it was really weird because I could tell that the head, what they call the head, which is the computer, the brains of the operation, you could tell that that was working because it would put in the inputs, and like, you know, there's a thing on the screen that goes like brrr, and it says how much it's looking for going left or going right, and then there's a rudder angle indicator that moves. And so it was trying to last night, but it wouldn't. So because we were offshore, I mean, we were good 20 miles off of the north end of Mallorca by then. And because we had 2 more nights of cruising, and remember, I like to set things up, and I'm not saying that Cristalita can't do anything, I'm just saying that I'm a lot more familiar running without an autopilot, steering by hand. Look at the beautiful moon up here. Than she is. She does a great job of everything that she does, but I really like to, you know, put in 18 hours in a day and then set up collision alarms and AIS alarms, have it on autopilot, and have her watching, and if anything comes within 2 miles of us or the alarms start going off or anything gets funky, she wakes me up, and I have a look around. So that's usually what I'm doing. Now, without the autopilot, that's a tall order. And it's kind of funny because when I bought Paquita, her autopilot was screwed up. For almost a year, we steered by hand everywhere, including we sailed all the way from Rhode Island all the way down to Puerto Rico, hand steering. And nobody, even we had Garmin, we had everybody, nobody could figure out what was wrong with the autopilot. It wasn't until about a year later where I just went through the whole thing and realized somewhere it had been set that the speed of Paquita was 48 knots. So it was trying to make corrections as if we were at 48 knots. Anyway, that wasn't the case last night. I'm thinking, or I'm hoping I should say, because as you can see, we are cruising now. Cristalita's having her coffee. I'm going to go have mine, but I wanted to get up and underway as soon as possible to try to make our little stop where we could get some sleep at night and deal with this in the morning. Have this be as short as possible. So anyway, I'm hoping that the problem was as simple as, let me see if I could do this. I'm trying to get better with all this. There we go. So hopefully there, that looks a little better. Not me, but I'm saying I pulled the camera back a little bit. So what I'm hoping for is that the problem could have been one of 3 things. On what they have called, there's something called a linear actuator, and it's a drive unit that is connected to the steering quadrant, and it basically takes commands from the head unit to either push out or pull in. And on that, there are 2 really small wires and 2 really big wires. The 2 really small wires, I don't know any of this, I'm suspecting this, but I suspect that the 2 little wires are what I would call the clutch, because when it's not engaged, you can move the whole thing around. When the clutch goes, it bites in, and it's determined, what happens is determined by the linear actuator. So, a couple things could happen. One is it could have overheated, but it usually puts like when it's really rough, it will say rudder approaching limits. It gives me a warning about that. You guys don't need to look at me. Okay, I gotta remember to pan the camera slowly. Look at that beautiful sunrise over the mountains. So, it usually gives me a warning if it's overheating, and it doesn't. And what's cool is it does it through a shunt. So in other words, it starts seeing if you're drawing too much power for too long a time. So it'll tell you before it drops out. It will say rudder approaching its limit, and I didn't get any of those, and it was flat calm yesterday, so that doesn't make sense. Then there's another possibility, which is a very, very good possibility. The cockpit right now is loaded with stuff because in that starboard lazarette, where the autopilot is everything on the boat. It's all jammed down in there. And there's a possibility that something may have fallen onto something, you know, like, and made it more difficult. But once again, if it was more difficult, it'd be harder for me to steer whether the thing was engaged or not, because it's engaged at the motor, not engaged at the quadrant. So I tend to doubt that. And then the one thing that seems really odd, but could it be this easy? And I got to tell you this because anybody out there who has a boat, or maybe this is a metaphor for life, I don't know. But you know, this boat represents so much of my of everything that I have and own and want, you know, my plan for this whole trip. Not just this trip here, but you know, headed to Panama and through the canal and, you know, out to Southeast Asia and all that sort of stuff. All that revolves on the boat being good. And anytime there's a problem with the boat, I almost always think that it's worse than it really is. And when it comes out, it's not the end of the world. It's fine. We'll get through this as well. From our unintentional jibe, where it seemed like we broke the boom off, turned out it was just a $100 part that we replaced, and even got an extra one for that. Now I haven't fixed it yet, but the windlass, I'm still cranking that up by hand. That should be hopefully a simple fix. I imagine it'll take a fair bit of blood, sweat, and tears to get those seals replaced, but at least we know where we're gonna do, you know, we have a plan to do that. But anyway, remember I told you those 4 wires? There were 2 wires that I think operate the clutch, and 2 wires, and the other 2 wires, they're not positive or negative because they go either way. The head unit will change the polarity whether it wants the linear drive to go out or the linear drive to go in. So because when I would engage the autopilot last night, you could feel the resistance. You couldn't steer by hand when it was engaged. I believe the 2 wires, the 2 skinny wires that were grabbing the clutch were working fine, but nothing else was happening. And I could see that the head unit was sending signals because it was giving that, you could see that it was giving the commands, but nothing was happening. Well, there is a 10 amp fuse in line, and I went and I popped the cover off of it to look at it. It looked fine. I wiggled it around and put everything back on. I started it up this morning, and thank God everything's working. It's working fine now. So the good news is, try to pan very slowly. The good news is it's working fine. The bad news is I'm not exactly sure what happened. Oh, was it overloaded? Did something fall onto it? Was there is it just a matter of time before we start drifting off course again? Or was it as simple as that little fuse? Just, I mean, it's a waterproof, they say waterproof, really water resistant fuse, one of those rubber ones, you know, with the ATC fuse. So anyway, could it have been that easy? Or there's another possibility too, and that's that last night I shut everything down, which shuts down the Y2K, the N2K network. And when I turn everything back on, it gets fresh signals to everything, and maybe that did it. I don't know. So it's kind of one of those things. We're gonna wait. Ooh, flying fish just took off. How cool is that? That's a good reminder that I got to put a line in the water. But yeah, it's hopefully we'll keep going, and hopefully everything will be fine. And now that, once again, I'm getting more and more familiar with how the system works. So if there is a problem, I'll know to immediately go and look. I think that the next time before I touch the fuse, what I'm probably going to do is bring my meter down to see if I'm having any power coming through these by the fuse, and then wiggle the fuse and see if power comes on it that way. So we'll see, who knows. But anyway, that's it. That's all I got. You guys, thank you so much for watching. Really appreciate it. And thank you for liking and subscribing and hitting that super thanks. And special shout out to all you patrons. We've had a couple people sign up for Patreon. Really appreciate it, you guys. Thank you so much. Take care, be safe, and as always, I'll see you on the one.